Welcome to Simple Steps to Prosperity, the place to be if you want to create prosperity in your life and in your business. Today's topic is productivity. How can we become more productive when there are only so many working hours in a day and we also want to have a private life besides our work? How can we take time off to re-energize when we have so many things to do? How can we handle distractions and interruptions that take our attention away from highly priority work that generates our income and therefore our profits? How can we systemize our work in a way that we can create automatic productive habits? The biggest shift happened to me when I stopped checking my emails, my social media, my messages first thing in the morning and decided to invest the first hour of my working day meditating, exercising, having a healthy, energy boosting breakfast. And this is a topic that is very dear to me, and I will devote a special post to that, and scheduling my agenda, assigning priorities to the task for the day. So you see, when you check your emails and you reply to your emails and you spend time on social media first thing in the morning, what you are doing is simply adjusting to somebody else's agenda rather than focusing on what is important to you. And I can tell you that only by introducing this new habit into my working routine, my productivity has increased enormously. Then I started to organize my daily tasks, assigning priorities to them. And to explain how this works, I will use an example that I have learned from Stephen Covey, author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he tells the story of a business expert speaking to a group of students. And he puts a big wide-mouthed jar in front of him on a table, and then he produces about a dozen big rocks and starts carefully placing these rocks one at a time into the jar. When the jar is full to the top and no rocks would fit inside, he says, "Is this jar full?" And the students say, "Yes." And he says, "Really?" So he reaches under the table and he pulls out a bucket of gravel. And he starts putting the gravel in, shaking the jar so that, the pieces of gravel will work themselves down into the spaces between the big rocks. And he asks again, "Is the jar full?" And by this time, the class starts understanding the point that he wants to make. And so they say, "Probably not." And he said, "Good." So he reaches under the table and he brings out a bucket of sand and he starts pouring the sand inside. And the sand goes into the spaces left between the rocks and the gravel. And he asks one more, "Is the jar full?" And the students say, "No." So he takes out a bottle of water and he starts pouring the water into the jar until the jar is filled to the brim. And at this point he asks, "What is the point of this illustration?" And one of the students raises his hand and he says, "The point is that no matter how full your schedule is, if you really try hard, you can always fit more things to do into it." And he says, "No, this is not the point. What I want to teach you is that if you don't put the big rocks in first, you will never be able to get them in at all." So what are the big rocks? The big rocks are the highest value activities in your business, in your work, in your life, the one that produce your income and consequently your profit, the ones that enable you to complete your project, the ones that enable you to reach your goals. So if you fill your day with sand and water, replying to emails, checking your social media, and replying to your messages, you will end up with no time left for your big rocks. The next change that I introduced into my daily routine are uninterrupted blocks of time when I work on a specific task, a specific activity in my business. For example, I start my day writing my blog posts and I set 1 hour and I use a timer for that specific task. And I know that I have only so much time to complete this task, and this helps me stay focused on what I'm doing. So during that hour, I don't answer the phone, I don't check my emails, and I only focus on that specific task. At the end of the hour, I take a 5-minute break to stretch, drink some water. This helps me, be really hydrated, and hydration is really important if you want to be effective and productive. And I release any thought concerning the task that I have just completed. And this enables me to create space for my next activity on my daily list, on which I will stay focused with the time that I have allotted to it. And this has resulted in a massive increase in productivity. And believe me, this is tested. I used to feel overwhelmed and burned out, and since I've introduced these changes into my routine, my life has changed completely. Another thing that I have done, I started to organizing my week in a different way. So rather than working on different things every day, for example, seeing a few coaching clients and writing my book and organizing my courses and webinars and seminars, I now devote each day to a different activity. So I have client-only days, book writing days, courses and seminar days, and so on. And this helps me be in the flow of that activity for that day, and it frees my mind from other interfering thoughts, because I may be thinking of things that are not related to that specific activity for that specific day. And then remember to schedule some time off. This helps you to really focus on work when you are at work. I used to be so burned out because I hardly took time off to rest. And when you schedule your time off, and mind you, it must be really time off. No business calls, no emails when you take your time off. You will find that you have more energy for your business, and you will also be much more productive. Now it's your turn. Take a piece of paper or open a file on a computer if you prefer, and list all the business tasks and activities that you spend your time on. What are your big rocks? And what are your gravel? And which ones are water and sand? Thank you for being with me. And if you liked this video, share it with your friends and contacts. And if you want to keep updated about my seminars, my webinars, and the new interviews for Simple Steps to Prosperity, subscribe to my newsletter and you will receive all these updates in your inbox. So see you soon, and thanks again for staying with me.